I hope that this building can be a good example for other parts of the country. People have traveled here and kind of looked at what we've done, and that's pretty exciting to be a part of that. It really started with the people who conceptualized this project, you know, with the City of Portland and Transition Projects and Housing Authority of Portland. I think their kind of intention around this building was to provide these needed services for this part of our community.
The first thing that we did when we were selected for the project was just do a lot of listening. Before we even put pen to paper, we went to over a dozen neighborhood and community meetings because the siting of the building was such a hot topic originally. It was a pretty rigorous process, but mostly my job was just to sit back and listen and hear what the concerns were, so that when we were ready to start to propose some ideas for the first site and then subsequently the final site, we understood what the goals were of the different stakeholders and what the needs were, so that we were, you know, being compassionate about what this building means to the whole community and not just our clients. So in terms of materials that were used in systems, we were doing a few things that were above and beyond what you typically do in multifamily housing. The amount of solar hot water we were doing was pretty rare. It was one of the largest arrays of any building done at the time in the Pacific Northwest. We were on such a tight urban site that storage became a big issue, because with rainwater you have to be able to have enough storage to last through the dry seasons. And so your cisterns and your storage tanks start to get really large. So there was a benefit to doing gray water as opposed to rainwater, but then we were also having to be pioneers because it was the first multifamily building in Oregon to do gray water harvesting.
One of the big challenges with this building was the 130 units of housing that were essentially comprising the top 5 floors of the building. You know, the way that the window pattern and sort of the different sides of the building, one light, one dark, and then the window patterning with the colored elements that I think create the illusion of individuality and sort of this quilt-like effect, even though every one of those windows is the exact same size. And so there's sort of, how do you get that same level of richness that coming up through that real dense part of the building.
The amount of ventilation we were trying to bring into this building required an immense amount of ductwork. We were also dealing with a height limit on the site because we were adjacent to the historic train station. We had to slide 8 stories under 75 feet, yet we also had to bring in to the residences, the goal was 2 times the code minimum amount of fresh air, and to the commercial spaces, I think it was 3 to 4 times the code minimum fresh air.
So we implemented kind of a heat recovery system in the building, and in this case, kind of the stale warm air is pulled out of each individual unit through the bathroom vent, up through a heat recovery unit. 100% fresh outside air is brought back in, and that's then preheated air that goes back into the rooms. In this situation, 85% of the heat is recovered, put back into the unit, and with just the refrigerators that are in the room, that's enough of a heat source that, although we do have additional kind of space heaters in that area, they don't have to kick on unless it's below 26 degrees outside, which rarely happens in Portland. We hear feedback from the staff that the difference from the conditions that they worked in before to today are just night and day. That it just helps with attitude. There's less fights, there's less conflict, that people actually come in, and I've actually, you know, been down there on occasion just to go check the building out, and somebody will point out that I'm the architect on the project, and I'll have people come up to me in tears practically, like they've never had, you know, they've never been able to live in such a nice place before, and they just can't believe it. And so it's very heartwarming, you know, to be the recipient of that. And that's what makes these projects so special.